Welcome, everyone, to our Sunday assembly on this last weekend of the year 2020. Whether you've been with us many times or this is your first visit, we are glad you are here as part of our gathered community. We invite everyone to connect in the chat during assembly and to stop by our Zoom coffee hour immediately following assembly. The link to coffee hour will be available in the chat, and it also can be found in your most recent emails from FUS. Our monthly theme for December is Stillness, and on this wintry morning, we offer some words about stillness from Unitarian Universalist minister, the Reverend Dr. Rebecca Parker. Perhaps for a moment the keyboards will stop clicking, the wheels stop rolling, the computers desist from computing, and a hush will fall over the city. For an instant, in the stillness, the chiming of the celestial spheres will be heard. Stunned to stillness by beauty, we remember who we are and why we are here. Come, let us gather in community. Each week when we gather, we light our chalice and share one of the 7 principles of Unitarian Universalism, or one of the aspirations of our congregation. This week we light the chalice remembering our aspiration to support one another's journey toward meeting and connection in the here and now.
Now for our Congregational Covenant. Love is the spirit of this place, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. After more than a century practicing congregational humanism and bridging the gap between the religious and secular worlds, First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis is still unique in our pursuit of a community that values and promotes the open-eyed and evidence-based free exchange of often dangerous ideas. Join us as we continue the search for truth, meaning, and justice, and help keep the voice of Unitarian Universalist humanism loud and strong by considering a gift. You can find us on PayPal, the Give Plus app, or firstunitarian.org/donate. Thank you.
On Sundays when we gather, we take a few minutes to reflect on the joys, sorrows, and milestones of the human experience. We do this so that we stay in touch with our own humanity. We do this to remind ourselves of the value of a moment of stillness. And we do this so that no one among us is alone, either in celebrating joy or in facing the burdens of life. This morning we have some news about FUS member Barbara Blackstone. As many of you know, Barbara suffered a head injury in a fall in October. And this past week, she returned to the hospital because she has been experiencing some complications during her recovery. Her daughters have set up a Caring Bridge page to make it easier to update the many people who love Barbara. The Caring Bridge link will be placed in the chat, or you can contact me for it. We hold Barbara and her daughters in our thoughts as they navigate these latest health issues. Cards for Barbara and her family can be sent to the FUS office. And we have a joy this morning from a new FUS member, Caden Colton. On Monday, during a virtual hearing before a judge, Caden's name change received legal approval. Caden has always been Caden to us, and I was honored to represent FUS and serve as a witness at the hearing. We share in Caden's joy for this wonderful life event. If you'd like to congratulate Caden, you can do so in the chat, or if you'd like to send an email, you can reach out to me and I'll get you connected. Congratulations, Caden. We now take a moment of silence to reflect on all the challenges and heartbreak going on in our lives and across our country. And we pause to think with gratitude of all those who are leading lives of justice, service, and compassion. Let us now share a moment of silence.
Kwanzaa is near. No, Kwanzaa is here. December 26th through January 1st, we burst into its purposeful activities. In this season, we feel the presence of the ancestors. We remember their journeys, their struggles, their journeys, their struggles, their journeys, their struggles. We light 7 candles for Kwanzaa 7 days to obey and adhere to each principle. Kwanzaa is not Christmas. Kwanzaa is not to focus on the outer, but the inner. Not the outer, but the inner. The black, red, green, and gold holds the principles, the purpose together. Kwanzaa is an African-inspired celebration to pause the nation. So we honor what is whole, empowering. Black families gather in delight when it is Kwanzaa time. We build in the heart, we use the powers of the mind, We find our higher selves in Kwanzaa. This December 26th, as we light the candles, let's also remember the lost lives that won't be here to say, Habari Ghani, what's the word? As we struggle still for black liberation, let us know that Kwanzaa is for the building of the African-American nation. Teach black children about Kwanzaa. Help them learn of its need. Let Kwanzaa's glorious energy speak through your actions, your deeds. Enter the new year with pride in your hearts. Be thankful of the creativity, the unity, the self-preservation that Kwanzaa sparks. Kwanzaa.
Thanks to Christopher D. Sims for recording that for us, talking a little bit about Kwanzaa. Christopher is a poet, and we've worked quite a bit together over the years on social justice, poetry, and issues, so it's great to see him. In the late 1970s, a research team set up a very simple experiment. The researchers wired a bulb up to a switch that turned the bulb on and off at random intervals. Then they installed a button. The switch and the button were not connected in any way. Then the team asked subjects to push the button. Pushing the button and the light going on and off had no relationship to each other. The two were not connected. Yet, when asked, the test subjects reported their ability to make the switch work, even though it clearly did not turn the light on and off at the right times. Now, sometimes the two accidentally correlated, and this happenstance was enough to convince the subjects that they had at least some control. The fact is, we need to feel in control, and we are inclined toward creating an illusion of control, even when we have no control at all. One school of thought argues that our over-optimistic view of our abilities springs from evolution. Self-confidence is a survival skill. When we feel in control, we take more opportunities and more risks. Often arguments from natural selection can be a bit glib, but this one rings true for me anyway, because it rhymes with ancient wisdom. The Book of Ecclesiastes, for example, the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, neither yet bread to the wise, nor yet riches to those of understanding, nor yet favor to those of skill, but time and chance happeneth to them all. These words speak both to those who are swift, strong, experienced, and skillful as a warning that winning is never a slam dunk, but luck always plays some bit in there. And these words also speak to the slow, the weak, the inept, and the unskillful, that sometimes a bit of chutzpah pulls off the unexpected victory over circumstances, because luck is always involved. As the writer of Ecclesiastes phrased it, time and chance happeneth to them all. And I suspect if he were writing nowadays, the Ecclesiastes writer would add, go for it. We human beings are inclined to see patterns when there aren't any. We're inclined toward feeling in control. And gosh knows, now as always, it takes chutzpah to face the future. That illusion of control has become a truism of the American character. The hard lesson many of us learned in the year 2020, however, is that control is an illusion quickly dashed, because time and chance happeneth to us all. Our theme for December has been stillness. The hope of this season is stillness and brightness, but these are elusive qualities, and this can lead to feelings of being trapped and helpless. I've titled my talk today, The Stillness of the Ancestors, because now, in the midst of the holiday season, many of us experience two things at once: the silence of those who have died and the words of those who have gone that will not stop echoing in our minds. For many of us, this season that our culture insists is still and bright is in truth dark and noisy, especially this time of year. As the British novelist L.P. Hartley wrote, quote, "The past is a foreign country. They do things differently there," end quote. And I would add that there is no passport to that foreign country. None of us are allowed to go there. Yet we somehow yearn to relive the past or to change the past. We somehow yearn to hold those who live back there, including our younger selves, sometimes in love, and sometimes we yearn for forgiveness or accountability. Now, back in 1415, a church council explored one way of doing this. They declared the deceased Protestant Bible translator, John Wycliffe, a heretic, banned his books, and had his body dug up and burned at the stake. And now I assume that some on the church council felt better about that. Wycliffe didn't get away with it in the end, by golly. But barring exhumation and reminding ourselves that the past is a foreign country that we can't visit, how do we speak of the past and perhaps even heal from it when the ancestors are decidedly silent and beyond our reach? Scolding the dead and even burning them at a metaphorical stake for their oversights and their wrongs may feel good, but it doesn't do anything to fix the present or to quiet those old voices in our heads. At this time of year, we remember, for example, the Dakota 38+1. It's a fool's game to attempt to go around what occurred, to explain it away. Healing and restitution lies in facing those facts. Snoop Dogg said, "That's how we do it. We give back to the people who made us who we are. We never forget that." A good memory for Kwanzaa. A very noble sentiment for those who have benefited us, those who made us also made the circumstances that we find ourselves in today. Some of those are good and some are not so good. Snoop Dogg is right. We never forget, for good or for ill. Now, there's a story by the Zen teacher Senryu Suzuki, who was one of the earliest Zen teachers in the United States just after the Second World War. One day, he began his lesson of the day with these words: "The difficulty that you are experiencing now," and he paused for effect. The American students in the room assumed that he was about to tell them a great secret, how to resolve those nagging difficulties. They assumed his next words would be, "will go away if you practice Buddhism." He said, "The difficulty that you're experiencing now, this difficulty will be with you for the rest of your life." And that's why Senryu Suzuki is still, I think, one of the best Zen teachers for American audiences. He didn't overpromise Buddhism as some sort of miracle cure-all. Buddhism is hard work, facing the one big difficulty, and that one big difficulty takes 1,000 forms. That is hard work. And that's the bad news. And the hope in that, well, I think there is some. The hope lies in our realization that rather than going around a difficulty, we've got to go through the difficulty. Suzuki also said, enjoy your problems. I'd like to suggest that we dance with our problems. That's going to be what I'm going to try to say today. Yeah, we've all heard someone say that life is a dance. It's a cliche, and it's become a cliche because it's so darn true. We tend to stop thinking about cliches. We just fill space with them, verbal space with them. But as we head into the new year, let's think for a minute about what it really means for life to be a road and life to be a dance. When we're dancing, we're using movement for other than its usual purpose, which is getting somewhere or getting something done, right? A dance is contained movement. It's stylized movement, movement for the sake of movement. It's not movement just to do something, right? Dancing is about moving for the joy of moving, and it's about maybe going nowhere in style. We can become sometimes in dance that still point in the turning world that T.S. Eliot talked about. So when we say that life is a dance, we're making a particular sort of claim that life is about something other than getting somewhere or doing something, which is a very wise thing to be saying, because that thought about that it's about getting somewhere or doing something, that's the poison in our culture. It's one of the bad things bequeathed to us by our American ancestors, whether we have their DNA actually or not. I've been writing a poem recently, and writing for me is a kind of dancing, and I've titled this poem, The Road Always Taken. And I started thinking about Robert Frost's The Road Not Taken, and it's still a very popular poem. And the fact is, I think most people miss the subtlety of what Frost was actually saying in The Road Not Taken. He said these two lines, though as for that, the passing there had warned them really about the same. In other words, the road not taken is not a bold move for the brave to get somewhere. All roads, Frost was saying, are worn really about the same. We're always talking about life as that cliched road. As Frost points out, as a matter of fact, we necessarily take a road, and we may even think it's real special, but we could say, yeah, maybe not so special. I'd prefer, I think, to say of all that, they're equally special. All of those roads we could and did or whatever chose. It's according to the selves that choose them that make them special and wrong and all of those things, I think. A road is an apt metaphor for life in a lot of ways. That's why it's such a great cliche. Sure, life is a road, and we may be stuck on one whether we choose it or not. We're born somewhere in some location. But what about instead of doggedly following that road, what about finding a shady spot nearby and sitting down and enjoying the day? What about dancing by the side of the road for a little while? Yeah, life is a road, it's a metaphor, a way of framing reality. It may be an inevitable one, but it may not be an adequate one for the good life. One of the gifts that aging gives, I think, is, if we are paying attention to aging, is that we know where the life journeys of many of our loved ones and other people we knew, we know where they ended up in those life journeys. And which leads to a question. Was that journey worth it? Was there enough dancing involved? And that's a very old Taoist thought. Wisdom is knowing that enough is enough. For so many of us, we've believed for so long that life is about getting somewhere or doing something that we don't think to look up and look around and see that we've already gotten there. We've already gotten to enough. And so now it's time to stop getting somewhere and start dancing. And okay, I'm milking this metaphor, but that's what poets are for. Yes, we do have to travel to the dance. I get that. There's always a road. But we're not going to enjoy that dance if we don't stop traveling and start embodying the music and the movement, going nowhere in style. Now, all that said, I've got those voices from my ancestors. I'm a terrible dancer, and I do blame my ancestors for that. I grew up in a household where dancing was considered a sin. We didn't play cards or board games. We didn't go to movies. We didn't swim. We didn't dance. All of those frivolities got in the way of the serious business of surviving in this life and getting to paradise in the next one. Well, I've stopped believing all of that, but I've never managed to get proficient with the things I didn't grow up with. I've had to learn that some moments of life are not about work, and that's been a real hard lesson for me. My parents never did learn that lesson. I try because I believe deeply that being in the moment without any goal other than being in the moment, that's what life is about. It's the essence of Buddhism and Taoism and Stoicism. It's the way to suffer less and enjoy more. So you see, my ancestors have not gone silent. They are in the back of my head every moment of every day saying, work, 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 telling me that if I work hard enough, somehow I will actually be in control. But they don't know what they're talking about. Yesterday in the mail, I received a package from a UU minister who was formative in my becoming a minister after I retired as an English professor. He sent me an FUS order of service that he found while he was going through his papers. It's from Sunday, December 8th, 1929. I love reading these old things. Now, December the 8th, 1929, the stock market had crashed back in October of 1929. It was the beginning of the Great Depression, and it was a very dark time. And in many ways, it looks like today. In the announcement section of that order of service, it says this: the next bi-weekly open house meeting will be held at the Unitarian Center this evening. Supper will be served at 6 o'clock for those who desire it. And at 7 o'clock, Mr. Dietrich, after a short informal address, will answer questions as usual. This will be followed by dancing and cards and a general social evening. Everyone is invited. So dancing and cards and a general social evening in the face of the darkness of 1929. I wish I could go to that evening. That would be pretty cool, I think. In the face of the collapse of capitalism and the utter meltdown of their economy, the people of First Unitarian Society had a question and answer session with the minister, then dancing, cards, and a general social evening where everyone was invited. Your ancestors may be like mine. They're those dour specters telling you to fill every moment with something, do something, to fill every moment with ambition and control. But as the new year comes, I intend to try this. I'm going to tell those old voices in my head to be quiet and still. I intend to tell them that I will be attending that evening at First Unitarian Society, December 8th, 1929. In my mind, I will know suddenly how to play cards, and suddenly I will know how to dance, and everyone will be invited. So may it be.
Join me from home in our extinguishing the chalice words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. All of these we carry in our hearts and in our minds until we are together again.
Thanks for joining us today, and thanks to Justice Bovee and the tech team for making it happen despite all kinds of technical glitches and such. But we managed to do another virtual gathering of our congregation, and that's what matters. Thank you so much for putting up with the headsets and all that kind of thing today, and thanks for joining us. I want to close with the words of the Transcendentalist minister, Theodore Parker, who wrote, I think, a very, very good humanist closing. Be ours a religion which, like sunshine, goes everywhere. Its temple, all space. Its shrine, the good heart. Its creed, all truth. Its ritual, works of love. Its profession of faith, divine living. So may it be.
Thanks for listening. You can find much more about humanism and what's happening at First Unitarian Society in Minneapolis by visiting our website at firstunitarian.org.